Hello everybody, I'm Nick, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can start consuming and publishing Service Bus messages in queues and topics in .NET Core. If you don't know what Service Bus is and you want to learn more about it, you can check my previous video by clicking on the top right corner of your screen right now, just so you can catch up with something that you might not know. All the code for this video will be found in the description down below. This video is part of my Azure series, so if you don't want to miss any episodes, please subscribe and ring the same notification bell to get notified when I upload a new video. So first things first, let's take a look at the application that I have here. In fact, there are two applications here. We have a Service Bus consumer and a Service Bus producer. As the name implies, this consumer one is supposed to consume the messages that we publish in a queue or topic, and the producer is supposed to create them. And if we take a deeper look, we have a messaging controller, which all it tries to do is imitate realistic behavior. So we have a request, for example, to create a new customer, and then a service would create the customer in the database, and then we might be publishing that message so somebody can listen to it and do something with it. And we have the same thing for orders. So we can create an order for like a product or something. It doesn't really matter, but just imitates the behavior. And then we publish again into a queue or a topic. And I'm going to show you how you can do both in this video. And then on the consumer side of things, I have just a background service. It's not an API, it's nothing, it's just a console app. And in here, we're going to put the code that consumes only the customers, even though we're going to have orders as well. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. And in the message control again, we don't actually have an implementation for this interface, the iMessage publisher. So we're going to write this together. But before we can actually write any code, we need to go to Azure and create the entities that we need. So first, I have a resource group in North Europe, and I'm going to click Add here. And I'm going to type Service Bus. So Service Bus it is. We're going to select that one. I'm going to say Create. Then I'm going to give it a name, Nick YouTube EUN. That's probably not taken, yes. And then we're going to select the standard pricing. I can click here and show you. The reason why I go with the standard is because I need the topics to show you both. Depending on your use case, you might not need topics or you might need topics. I'm going to explain here why we're doing topics, but I also explained that in the previous video, so you can watch that as well in more detail. And then you can see that it can be very cheap or very expensive depending on your use case. So let's just close that, and I'm going to keep everything as default and select North Europe. And that's it. I'm going to say create. I'm going to wait until this finishes deploying. And that was successful. It was successfully created. So if we go back and refresh, here we go. And I can click into that and I'm going to show you around. So the first thing you might see is the shared access policies. And this is where we're going to get our connection string into the top level entity. Now, queues and topics can also have their own shared access policies. And you can specify that you want something to be just for a listener or just for a sender, or also have managed permissions. So you can go very granular in how you want to allow users to interact with this. I'm not going to touch upon that on this video. Security might be coming in a different video. For now, we're going to focus on the functional side of things, so publishing and consuming. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a queue. And I'm going to name this just example queue. I'm not going to change anything. I explained some of these in the previous video, so you can watch that. We don't need any of them. And the queue size can stay as 1 GB. This is only for the messages that we currently have alive into the queue, so it should be enough. And that was created. So as you can see here, we have nothing in here. It's just an empty queue. And what we're going to do is we're going to start publishing into that queue. Now, I'm going to go to the service bus here and the connection string, because I'm going to need that in a second. That's where you're going to get it from. This one, the primary one. But for now, let's go back to the code and actually implement the message publisher. So this doesn't have an implementation, so I'm going to expand the services folder and I'm going to say add class message publisher. And this is going to implement the iMessage publisher interface, and we're going to implement the missing members. One of them is just taking a string and publishes that string into the queue or the topic. And the other one is taking an object. We're going to serialize that to a string, and then we're going to publish it into the queue, because the queue is accepting messages. Before I can actually publish anything though, I need to include a NuGet package, and that NuGet package is the Microsoft Azure Service Bus NuGet package. Latest version will do. So let's go ahead and include that into our producer project. So let's close that. And now we have access into an interface called private read-only IQ client. And this Q client is what we're gonna use in order to publish, send messages into a queue. And the code will look something like this. Let's implement the string one because the string will be easier. Ultimately, we need a message, and that message will be a new message, and this message class is coming from that package that we just added. And as you can see, it's accepting a byte array as the body. It can also accept many other things, but what we care about in this scenario is just the body. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say encoding UTF-8 dot get bytes, and I'm gonna get the raw text, and I'm gonna get a message out of that raw text. And this will be a JSON string basically. And then all I'm going to do is return qclient.send async and the message. And that's it. I don't need to do anything else. The rest will be done by the SDK. Similarly enough, I'm just going to copy that first part, and we obviously don't have a raw, but what we do have is the object as text, and we're going to say JSON convert dot serialize object and then the object that we get, and I'm going to use the object as text here. And this is enough for us to publish. Now you might be thinking, why am I not awaiting this? It will be awaited when I ultimately await this method, so don't worry about this. It's just that it's not really needed in this scenario. So now we need an implementation for this IQ client. So let's go to the startup.cs, and under our out controllers, I'm going to say services.add singleton IQ client, and then the implementation will look something like this. New Q client, and we're going to get the connection string. So this will be connection string, and then let me make this new line so you can actually see what's going on. So connection string and entity path, and the entity path will be basically the queue name. So let's put those in configuration so we can retrieve them. So let's make an object service bus, and then first connection string, and we're gonna paste the connection string here, and the other one is the queue name, and we're gonna get the queue name. So let's go back here. This is the primary connection string. We're gonna copy that into the clipboard, and we're gonna paste it here, and that's it. And then we're gonna go and get the queue name. Oops, I don't want to show you that yet. And the queue name, what I name this? Example queue. Yes, example queue. So let's copy that and paste it here. And now we're gonna need to get them from the configuration. So we say configuration.getValue string. I could make a class and map it to the class, but I am lazy, so I'm not gonna do that, but you can. And then I'm also gonna copy the actual value here, connection string, correct. And then let's new line this, basically copy the whole thing and say queue name here. And that's it. Now we have our queue client configured in dependency injection, and we can inject that as an interface, and it will be used by our messaging controller to publish messages into that queue. So let's see that in action. I'm gonna go ahead and debug the producer, and assuming I did everything right. Oh, I don't think I did, because I never registered the iMessage publisher. So I also need to message that to register that as well. So services.add singleton, and these need to be singletons, by the way. There's no point in having them transient or scoped, and just do message publisher, and that's it. And now we can just simply run this, and let's test it out. Let's see if it works. So this is running. I'm gonna go to Postman, and I'm gonna publish text here, and I'm gonna create a JSON body. It's gonna be just prop, and then the value will be value. Yeah, I know. So this is running. It says okay. Let's see the code, no exception, so it should have been published. Let's go back to the queue and click on the queue. As you can see, the active message count is now 1. Since nobody's consuming it, the message is in the queue. Now, how can we take a look just to make sure that it is what it should be? Well, I'm personally using a package called Azure Service Bus Explorer, which is an open source package in GitHub that you can use as well. And all I need for that, I'm going to show you exactly what it is. All I need is the connection string so I can connect to the namespace. So let's copy that. And this is what it looks like. And I'm going to do connect. And I'm going to select enter connection string and paste the connection string. And I'm going to say OK. And now it should connect. As you can see, I can see my queues and later my topics. And this is the queue that we have. This one is the active message count. So all I need to do now is click messages and say peak. If you say receive and delete, it's gonna get the message and delete it. You don't wanna do that if you just wanna see what it looks like. So you're gonna say peak. And as you can see, this is the body of the message. And these are all the system properties of the message. So I can see that it's been published successfully and somebody will eventually consume this. Now, I don't really want this here, but this is how you publish something into the queue. Now, the problem with having this queue here in this specific scenario is that if I keep using the queue to publish everything, I can actually go to Postman and publish a customer created event or message, sorry, and this has been published, and then node created message, and this has also been published. And if I go back and I refresh, as you can see, I have 3 active messages. And if I again go to messages and say receive and peak, I can see all of them here. The problem with that is that anybody consuming that will get all 3, but they might only be interested in customers created. This is where the topic comes in and the subscription. So I'm not going to spend any more time with the queues. It's very straightforward. The way you publish into a queue is the same way as you publish in a topic, and the same way you consume from a queue and a topic. But it's the concept and the idea that you want to show you. And I also want to show you filters. So I'm going to skip over the consumption of the queues. Assume that everything I show on topic consumption is exactly the same as the queue consumption. Well, except for the subscription, but let's forget about that. So what we can do here now is just purge this queue because we don't want any messages to be here anymore. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a topic. And for the rest of the video, I'm going to use a topic. And the idea of a topic is that you can have a centralized location where you publish messages as a producer, and then people can create their own subscriptions and only get notified on messages that they are interested in, or even all of them if they're interested in all of them. So that's the main idea. I'm going to name this example topic. Again, I'm going to use the defaults. And as you can see, I have subscription count 0. But now I'm going to create 2 subscriptions here. Please note that if you just start publishing into a topic without subscriptions, the messages will be automatically deleted. So don't make that mistake. I made it. I didn't know what was happening in the beginning. And now we need a couple of subscriptions. First, I'm going to say orders. Or basically just name it orders, really. It doesn't really matter. But you can have the team name that's interested in this subscription or who created this. This is up to you. And the max delivery count is how many times the message will be resent to the consumer before it's dead lettered, which basically means that it won't be pushed anymore and you have to manually go in and see what's happening. So I'm gonna set this to 5. It doesn't really matter for this video and we don't need anything else here. Any configuration here is up to you and your use case. I'm just gonna say that orders subscription is now being created, and I'm also going to create another one called customers. And again, let's just set this to 5. So both subscriptions have been created. Let's go back to our code. Instead of using a queue name now, we are going to use a topic name. And the topic name is example topic. And the producer, whoever creates the messages, doesn't know anything about the subscriptions. All they know is they're publishing into a centralized location for anybody to consume. This means that the code looks very, very similar. In fact, if I copy this topic name thing and I go to the startup and I change the IQ client to an iTopic client and then the topic client implementation, then all I need to do is change the queue name to topic name. I should have stopped this, by the way, to topic name, and this will still be working completely fine. Obviously, I need to change this to a topic client, and obviously rename this because this is not longer a queue client, it's a topic client. Yep, let's rename that. Yep. Okay, But the rest of the code stays exactly the same, because as far as this is aware, it's just another entity that it's publishing to. It's the consumption part that's the interesting part. And that's it from here. Now, let me just run this as it is right now and show you what's happening when I publish something into a queue. Let's say I have a new customer, Nick Chapsas, and I create that. That's perfect. Customer created. And now let's see that the order has also been created. So both of them should have gone into the topic. And if I refresh this here, I should be able to see 2 subscriptions correct, and then they both have the exact same messages. So both messages were published to both subscriptions, because the topic will essentially forward the messages to every single subscription. However, if you're only interested in some of them, it's up to you in the subscription level to filter them. And filtering is very important and a very useful tool. Essentially what's happening, and let me go to the interface, is you can go into the customers, for example, the customer subscriptions, and say, yeah, here you can see the filters. You can say add filter, and now you can have either a SQL filter or a correlation filter. The difference is that this is using a language like SQL, so you can say something like a property in the message can be used. So you could say prop equals value. Well, we probably need single quotes here, but yeah, prop equals value, and prop is a property in your object. Or you can use system properties, so correlation ID, content type, label, message to, reply to, yada yada yada, and then put the value here, or custom properties. And this is what I'm gonna use. What I'm gonna say here is I'm gonna say that the customer subscriptions is only interested in message type customer created. And this, in my code, is the name of the contract I'm publishing into the queue or the topic. So this is what it is here, and I'm gonna save the changes. And then orders have the order created. So I'm gonna copy that, go back to Azure. Oh, of course I need a name for my filter. So I'm gonna say only customers and save the changes. And then I'm gonna go to the orders and I'm gonna say add a filter. By default, it's accepting everything, by the way, obviously. And then I'm gonna say orders only correlation filter message type. And I'm gonna say that the value is order created. And I'm gonna save that. Now, obviously, how am I setting this user property? Because if I just keep publishing now, they will get notified for both. I'm not doing any filtering currently because there is no filter in my object or the message that I'm publishing. Let me go back and just purge both of these subscriptions. So now they have no messages within them. And now in the code, I'm gonna go to the publisher, and in both scenarios, I'm gonna say under my message, just stop this. I'm gonna say message dot, and there's a property called user properties. And I'm gonna set the message type to be the type of the T object that this is accepting, the generic dot name. And this is the name of my contract. And because it's a contract, everything in this should be versioned. So it should not really break compatibility, or it should be always forward compatible if you keep adding properties but never break. Well, if your contract negotiation within your company or your team is done correctly. And then for just publishing string, I'm just gonna set this to raw. Now this will fail if you have a class called raw, but why would you do that? Anyway, you get the point. So now if I debug this, I can go to Postman and create again my new customer and my new order. And now if I go to this app and I refresh, each one of them has one message. Customers only have one message, and if we take a look, it will be the customer created message. And then the orders one, if we take a peek, only has the order one. So on the topic level, we only sent what the subscriber is interested into. This is just great functionality. I love it. I really like it. And it really makes our life way, way easier when we're dealing with these scenarios. Now, this is fine on the publishing side, but how are we consuming? Well, I'm going to show you how we're consuming now. In the service bus.consumer, I'm going to again add the same NuGet package because it's not there. And again, the SDK team has done a great job. It's very easy to consume as well. Now, we're using the background service of .NET Core. And in case you don't know, this will just keep running in the background of your application. So you just spin up a console app and this keeps consuming constantly as messages are coming in. And all I need to do to consume is I need, again, a private read-only, this time an iSubscription client. And I'm gonna inject it from dependency injection. So this is testable. And then what I'm gonna say is, I'm gonna keep that completed task here. I'm gonna say subscription.client dot register message handler, and then I'm gonna use this lambda. And you can say in here, basically in here, this will be called every time you have a new message. So this message right here, this contains everything your consumer needs. So since this is only gonna be consuming the customer events, I can safely deserialize this into the object that I want. And this, in order to do that, all I need to do is say customer created equals encoding.utf8.get string from the message.body. And then I also need to do JSON convert dot, and of course I need to import that dot deserialize object from that string, and the object will be of object type. Since this is a contract, I can use it. So it's customer created. Oh, is it not included? Let's just include it. Here you go. And now here you have your actual object because this is a contract, then we can reuse it. And you can do whatever you want. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say console.writeLine, and we're gonna just log something in the console, but here's where you're gonna do something with your database potentially, or any logging. And we're gonna say new customer with name, and then we're gonna say customer created dot full name, and that's it really. We can also say end ID, and I'm gonna do that so we can see the different messages coming with different IDs, and then just say return task completed async. Of course, nothing stops you from doing async here and awaiting in here if you need to do so. Again, this is up to you, up to your use case. Now, the reason why this is complaining is because we also need another thing here, and that's the message handler options. And we also need to specify how we're gonna handle exceptions. All I'm gonna do here is say task completed task, because I'm not gonna handle exceptions in this scenario with any complex way. But if you needed to do that, you could just extract that and say args.exception or exception received context and do something fancy with it, but I don't need to do it. And then in terms of other settings in these options, you can say autocomplete, and I'm gonna say false because I'm only wanna autocomplete when I tell them that it's completed. And I'm also gonna say max concurrent calls 1. And now, since I talked about this autocompleting thing, I'm not gonna return task completed here, because if I do that, the message is not actually completed. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say subscription client dot complete async and manually complete this message. And I'm gonna do that by saying message dot system properties dot lock token. So I'm gonna use the lock token. The lock token is used to essentially tell the client and the server that this is being currently locked by a single consumer who's consuming this. So don't send it to anybody else yet, else we're gonna have duplicate processing. So that's its purpose, but we also use it to complete the message manually. And really that's it here. There's nothing else I need to actually show you. Now let's go ahead and register this iSubscription client in the startup.cs. And in here, all I'm gonna do is say services.add singleton iSubscription client. And in very similar fashion, we're gonna have a bunch of settings, a new subscription client. And this needs 3 things: it's connection string, topic path, and subscription name. I'm gonna be lazy again and copy that, and then just rename a few things. So I'm gonna paste that here in the settings of the consumer, and this is no longer queue name. Same connection string, and now subscription name, and this was customers. And then in the startup, I'm gonna copy one and then copy the others. So connection string, and this is topic name, not M, comma, and a subscription name, which I'm gonna copy because I want type. Here you go. So that's all in your consumer as well. This will now be a long running service that's gonna keep consuming these messages as they're coming in. Let me just run this consumer in the background. So I'm gonna start debugging this. So this is now listening, and as you can see, it actually got notified with the message that we published before. And if I refresh now, it's no longer gonna be there. And let's run the producer as well, and let's make some messages, and let's see that it only actually consumes the customers, not the orders. So I'll go here. I'm gonna make this smaller so you can see them being consumed in real time, essentially. And you can see I'm creating a few orders. Nothing is being written here. But if I go to the customer and I create a few customers, you can see that the customer, or let's change this to John. As you can see, all of these messages are coming in as they're being published. So this is how you create a long-running consumer and a producer as well. That's all I had for you for today. Thank you very much for watching. Special thanks to all my GitHub sponsors for making these videos possible. If you want to support me as well, you're going to find a link in the description down below. Leave a like if you like this video, subscribe for more content like this, and ring the bell as well to get notified when I upload a new video. And I'll see you in the next video. Keep coding.